She got along with everybody.
I don't believe a word she says.
You think she's a liar?
Yes, I do.
Probably one of the most heinous crimes that I myself have worked in my 18 years.
I know that you're involved. And you know what I'm talking about. I can see it in your eyes.
All right, then tell me.
Unrepentant, non-emotional monster.
That's all I'm asking for is 10 minutes and another cigarette.
He thought he knew more than what we did.
I'm Mallory Jones. I knew Gail working through closings at the real estate office where she was employed, Pinkston and Associates. I don't remember the exact year I met Gail, probably in 97 or 98. I think she was employed at Pinkston and Associates for about 15 years. Calder Pinkston's office, his real estate office, was a warm and welcoming environment that did basically 99.9% real estate. That's all they did. So they basically did real estate closings. He had 2 or 3 ladies who did the behind the scenes work, and then he had a receptionist, Patsy. To come to work for his firm. Calder knew Gail's reputation and her great work ethic and how exacting she was, dotting all the I's, crossing all the T's. He was excited because he thought she would bring a new dimension, actually raise the bar of what his practice did, which was already excellent work. Gail was a good person. She was a sweet lady and had a good personality, had a good sense of humor. She got along with everybody. She was an animal lover. She used to bring her little dog to the office. It was let's say a pet-friendly office. She always did a great job. You knew it was going to be done right if Gail was involved. And, you know, speaking of her and Calder, and he was so thrilled to have her as the office manager / legal secretary, and he knew he had somebody he had total trust and faith in. There was not a more professional, top legal secretary as it pertains to real estate in this whole area. She was the best of the best.
Gail's neighbors, Lori and Ken Dalton, went out of town to a football game. They were good friends with Gail. They knew her really well. They asked Gail later on that evening to put their dog back up in the house for them. So when they got back home around 3 o'clock, 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning, they noticed that their dog was out. They thought that was suspicious. They went over to Gail's house, knocked on the door. They didn't get an answer. They had a key to Gail's house, and Gail had a key to their house, obviously. They were that good of neighbors. And he tried to use the key to get in. He couldn't because the deadbolt was locked. Now, Ken stated to me that that was really suspicious because Gail never uses the deadbolt to the back of the house. And so he actually contacts 911 An officer responds out to the residence. They still can't make entry into the house, so they called the fire department out. And when the fire department arrived, they made entry through a window. I was the on-call detective for that night. I received a phone call around 3:45. The 911 operator said to me that they had an incident. I probably got to the scene about 4 o'clock in the morning. I noticed when I entered the house, nothing was out of place until I entered into Gail's bedroom. When I entered into Gail's bedroom, I noticed or observed that she was laying across the bed, deceased, and it looked quite suspicious. And one of the things suspicious about it was that her car was missing from her garage. We called our crime scene unit out to the residence. They showed up, they started photographing the residence, basically and processing the scene. There was paperwork strewn all over the room, on the bed, on the floor. There were clothes thrown on the floor. The bedroom was just in complete disarray. Gail, she had a black plastic bag that was kind of behind her head. When one of the firemen entered the residence and went into her bedroom, he had pulled that black plastic bag back from her face. The bag was actually covering her face. Some of the things that we did notice about with Gail was that she had, her pants had stains on them, like from bleach. And we did, when we went into one of the bathrooms, a spare bathroom there in our house, I did locate a bottle of bleach. Obviously, someone was trying to hide something. This was October, and the thermostat in Gail's house was turned all the way down to 59 degrees. A neighbor stated that around 4 o'clock that afternoon on the 5th of October, they actually saw Gail's car leaving the house. I knew that with all the circumstances just surrounding just at the scene that night, that this was not going to be a suicide or a natural death, that there was going to be something more to it, that this was going to be a homicide.
My name is John Reagan, and at the time of this case, I was an assistant district attorney in the Macon Judicial Circuit in Macon, Georgia. Macon is a mid-sized southern central Georgia town. We're located right in the geographical center of Georgia. We're proud of our history and our heritage. It's a southern town. People say hello. We have our share of crime, but for the most part, it's a town where you can live and be happy and know your neighbor and be safe.
Gail's neighborhood, for something like this to happen in her neighborhood, was highly unusual. The neighborhood is a quiet, suburban neighborhood where these things just don't happen. Speaking with friends and family of Gail's, every one of them told me the same thing, that she was a loving mother, she was a loving grandmother.
We looked into who Gail Spencer was because we needed to know why this had happened to Gail. Was there something out of the ordinary? And what we could find was Gail Spencer was a 58-year-old legal secretary who was loved by everybody. She was well respected in the legal community. She was well respected by everybody that knew her. She was a great neighbor.
She was a good friend. She was caring, nurturing. She was just an all-around, just great individual. I returned to Gail's house to do a second look over of it. When I entered into the garage, one of the things I noticed was that there was a fast food bag, a cup of soup, and the car seat from Gail's car that was sitting in the middle of the garage. The one thing that was suspicious about it was the fact that I was informed by Gail's sister that Gail did not eat fast food. And another thing, the car seat, that told me that whoever took the car, that there was more than one of them. Gail's co-worker, Miss Patsy Miller, actually arrived on scene. Gail had texted on that Friday morning, the 5th, stating that she was sick and she would not be into work. Miss Miller further stated that another co-worker, Tracy Jones, had told her that earlier that morning she was taking a friend home in Gail's neighborhood and that her car had broke down. She got out and just happened upon Gail's house. I knew right away that she was quite possibly the last person to actually see Gail alive and speak with her. Tracy went over and knocked on some doors in the neighborhood and just happened upon Gail's house. She used Gail's phone to make a phone call and then left. I knew right away that she was quite possibly the last person to actually see Gail alive and speak with her, that I most definitely wanted to locate her and interview her.
I did meet Tracy Jones. I do remember meeting her in the office, being introduced to her. She was also a legal secretary, and from what I understand, she had worked at other law firms. She would also do similar things that Gail would do. I don't think she had access to trust account funds to that extent because she hadn't been there that long.
Gail was Tracy's direct supervisor. If Gail was not there, Tracy would take over certain roles, fiduciary roles.
In the beginning, I wasn't able to make contact with Tracy. It wasn't until that Monday morning that we went to Calder Pinkston's office, the law firm there, and made contact with Tracy. We asked her to come down to our office and speak with us in reference to Gail's death. She agreed to do so. And we got her down to our office and we began interviewing her. She actually did admit that on the morning of the 5th, that she had went over to Stinsonville Road, Gail's neighborhood, to meet with a guy that she only knew as Eric. And the reason she was going over there was to buy Loratabs.
I told my work that I had to drop a friend off, but the thing is I take Loratabs, and I didn't have any. And a friend of mine had told me that there was somebody, this guy on Holly Mill, that sold Loratabs. I figured I'd drive over there, see if they were up, see if I could buy some. I knew Gail lived there, so I walked over there, and she came to the door. And I asked her if I had to have something to drink, and I had to pee really bad, so I went and peed. I peed first, and then I went in there and fixed me something to drink. She said, well, I gotta get ready. She really didn't act like she wanted to talk to me much.
It seemed out of the ordinary, and some red flags went up about where she said that she had seen Gail or been in communication with Gail on that Friday, and it wasn't adding up.
To me, it's just strange that the house you were going to is right there in the same block as Gail's house.
Well, I really didn't realize it at first until I got over there, and I was like, oh, well, it's right there. And yeah, I mean, of course I did once I got there.
Her story just wasn't matching up, and her demeanor just was not right. Something was completely off about Tracy, and I knew that we needed to look further into her.
I might need to come back and talk to you later some more.
I understand.
All right?
Okay. Y'all gonna take me back to work?
No, you gotta walk.
Well, after interviewing Tracy that Monday morning, we didn't have anything to hold her or to keep her, so we let her go. We also had Gail's other coworker, Patsy Miller, come in and meet with us, at which time we obtained a statement from her about the information that she had given to us on the scene in relation to Tracy Jones.
Tracy always called in late, didn't show up, had to go do this, the car won't start, I need a tire. Yeah, it just went on and on and on.
Do you know, I mean, were they close friends?
Gail and Tracy? No. Gail just didn't like the way that Tracy did her work, and Gail would have to go over it and redo it. And she told her a number of times, and she just wouldn't listen to her, I guess. I don't know.
Did you have a conversation with Tracy about anything in particular about that morning? Mm-hmm. What was that conversation?
She come in, she clocked in, and we're walking around, and then she just told me that she broke down on Gail's road. But she didn't know that that was Gail's road because she didn't know where she lived. She was outside knocking randomly on people's doors, and she saw the lights on in Gail's house. So she knocked on her door, and she come to the door, and she was shocked that it was her.
Patsy also had stated that on Thursday, October the 4th, the day before, Tracy Jones had called in sick. Patsy said that Gail and her got a little bit nosy. They went into Tracy's office where they saw a sticky note on Tracy's desk. The sticky note was an address for the passport place in Atlanta.
So we looked up the address on the internet, and it's a place where you go to get passports, and you can get them quick in 1 to 2 weeks.
She also stated on that sticky note was the name of a Michael Brett Kelly.
What is your impression of Tracy?
I don't believe a word she says.
You think she's a liar?
Yes, I do.
On Tuesday, the following morning, I attended the autopsy of Gail. During the autopsy, it was determined that it was going to be a homicide, and I was informed by the medical examiner's office that she had died from asphyxia. While at the autopsy, I actually received a phone call from a lieutenant in another county. He had just interviewed a young man by the name of Dustin, who actually came in and gave an interview to this lieutenant, informing him that a guy that he knew by the name of Brett had called him up, asking him if he wanted to move out of the country. Dustin said he didn't have the money to do so.
The case broke wide open on who Michael Brett Kelly was when we got a tip from Warner Robins Police Department. Warner Robins is just south of Macon. It's in Houston County.
Brett told Dustin that he knew this old lady who they could hold hostage and could basically steal $1 million from.
We got a tip that somebody had come in and said that a guy he knew named Michael Brett Kelly had offered him a large amount of money to come in and just do this break-in and hold this woman, and that he'd get paid several $100,000. We began to look into who this Michael Brett Kelly was.
We found out that a Michael Brett Kelly had went up to Atlanta on Thursday, October the 4th, the day before the incident, and had obtained a passport. We were able to put Michael Brett Kelly and Tracy Jones together due to a sticky note on Tracy's desk. Later on, we also discovered that Michael Brett Kelly and Tracy Jones were also in a relationship together. After we got this information on Michael Brett Kelly, we were trying to locate him. And so we were trying to figure out where he was at. That Tuesday morning, Tracy was brought back in for another interview. And during that interview, Tracy actually gave us Michael Brett Kelly's phone number. And some of the other detectives had come up with the idea, just call him and see if he'll come in.
All right, let's call him. Put it right there. Put it down there where I can get flat on the ground.
Hello?
Brett,
Yes, who's this?
this is Scott. How are you, bud?
Good, how are you? Just to make sure I'm talking to the right Brett that I think I'm talking to, what's your last name, Brett?
Kelly?
Brett Kelly. Okay. You gonna come see me?
Yes, sir.
Alright.
Where do you want me to come to?
Alright, come to the detective bureau.
I said, there's no way that this guy, knowing what he's done, is going to drive himself to the detective bureau to be interviewed in reference to this. Well, I was wrong. He showed up. You came down here on your own free will and everything.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I appreciate you doing that.
Can I ask, was I on the phone with you?
No. Why is that? Why you ask?
Why was you on it? Because I was on the phone with some detective.
Yeah, that's Detective Chapman. Do you have any idea why you're down here?
No, sir.
None whatsoever?
None whatsoever.
Okay. He was completely cold, distant, displayed a kind of a cocky attitude in the beginning. He thought he knew more than what we did. I know that you're involved, and you know what I'm talking about. I can see it in your eyes.
Alright, then tell me.
Okay? Do you want to help yourself or not? Do you want to talk to us about it or not?
Well, I got caught up here. Y'all haven't even told me the reason why I come up here. So how am I gonna help y'all out what y'all need if I don't even have any help for myself?
Well, he's a tough guy, man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Were you that tough with the lady? Do you know what her name was? Do you know what her name was? Look at me, Brett. Do you know what her name was? Okay.
What was it?
Her name was Gail Spencer. She was 58 years old. She had 2 grandbabies. Small. She had a son that loved her. She had a sister that loved her. She loved her job, and she had neighbors that loved her. Her name was Gail.
Okay, my name's Brett, and I didn't have anything to do involved with myself with that lady.
When we first saw Michael Brett Kelly, the first words that came to my mind were non-emotional, cold monster. He thought he had this perfect plan and he was going to get away with it. And he was going to be able to absolutely get one over on the police, that there was no evidence linking him, and that he would be able to walk out of this scot-free. And he was dead wrong.
Oh, goodness. Oh, where was Tracy at Thursday? Did she go to work or was she at home with y'all? She did go to work Thursday? Okay. Now, what I wanted to show you here, kiddo, is you stayed at home Thursday, right? All day Thursday. What is that right there?
Passport?
A passport. What does that say where it's stamped at, pal? October the 4th, 2012. You couldn't have got your passport and it's stamped on October the 4th, 2012 if you were at Rutland Corners all day Thursday and all night Thursday.
Okay.
You're lying, Brett.
Well, I'm sticking to my story. That's all I'm gonna say.
So at that point, we called him on his bluff. I went and got the interview, the written statement from his buddy, Dustin, who we got the information about him on in the beginning, and I showed him the statement from Dustin. At that point is when he started to crack.
As long as I don't get lethal injection.
I want to treat you right since you treated me right, okay?
Sorry about lying about the passport.
That's okay, that's okay. So you, look.
I ain't admitting to nothing yet.
Okay. That's fine.
Damn. Damn. I ain't no psychopath.
I know you're not, Brett. I can look at you and tell you, just went bad. And I just need to know I need to know why. I need to know that.
And I remember because I was going home and I got a phone call as I was headed home from another detective who said, Michael Brett Kelly is breaking.
This is your chance, Brett. You can actually do right for this woman by doing this. That way I can contact her son and her sister and can tell them, look, he told me what happened. And if I can do that, I know God can forgive you and maybe the family will have some peace, okay? So let's start from how all this got started. Okay? I'm right here with you.
You can see it on the video. He just breaks down and asks Detective Shirley, I'll tell you everything, but will you pray with me?
Can you say a prayer with me first? And I'll tell you everything, detail to detail.
He went from this person who was trying to be arrogant and flippant and nonchalant and cold and think he was the smartest person in the room to a crying, just sobbing, broken individual.
Oh, Heavenly Father, Jesus Christ, give Brett the strength to come forward. Bless his heart for being willing to come forward here today, for he loves you, Jesus, for he loves his mother. He is sorry for what he's done.
I suffocated her.
What'd you suffocate her with?
Trash bag.
Trash bag?
He took a pillow, put it over Gail's face, and attempted to suffocate her that way. When he didn't seem to think that it was working, he ran into the kitchen, he got a trash bag and placed it over her head until Gail died.
We've been doing good, but now I need to know who told you to go do it. Tracy told you to go do it? Yes? Okay. What was Tracy's exact words?
Can you be somewhere with me in the morning? I said, sure. So I left with her in the morning.
Friday morning.
She said, I need you to hold this woman hostage up and then wait. I said, wait for what? She said, wait till I call you. I said, all right. And then she called me and she said, do it. So I did it.
Do it mean to kill her?
During his interview, he stated that Tracy had came up with an idea to embezzle $1 million, or a little over $1 million, from Calder Pinkston's office. And the plan was for Michael to hold Gail hostage in her house that Friday so that Tracy would be able to transfer money from the law office's accounts into some accounts that they were going to open. Calder Pinkston actually came down to our office and confirmed the fact that somewhere in the excess of a little over $1 million had been stolen from his firm. Brett stated that Tracy took him and another guy that he only knew the name Anthony, is what he stated, that morning over to Gail's house. Tracy went up, knocked on the door, and when Gail opened the door, she gave her some story about her car had broke down and she needed to use Gail's phone. So Gail let her in the house. Michael and Anthony followed in behind. They went into Gail's bedroom where she was getting ready for work, pointed a gun at her, and held her hostage there, while Tracy left and went back to work to embezzle the money.
One of the darkest things of this is an email that we found that Tracy had sent Gail beforehand saying, I need your address for Christmas cards. That's how they got her address.
Tracy was still being held in an office down the hall from the interview room. So after interviewing Michael Brett Kelly, I went down the hall and I met with Tracy there. I informed Tracy to stand up and put her hands behind her back. And she asked for what? And I said, you're being charged with murder and you're going to jail. Michael gave up everything. It was a little while later that evening that one of the other investigators came to me and stated that Tracy did not want an attorney at this time. She wanted to give her version of the story. So we brought Tracy back into the interview room and interviewed her for a third time. Tracy admitted to everything about the plan that they had planned to embezzle the money from Calder Pinkston's office. Gail basically run that office, and she knew everything that was going on, and that if Gail was at work, she was going to notice that money being taken out of the accounts. So that was the reason why they had to hold her hostage there. I was informed by Calder Pinkston that Tracy could have stolen the key fob and could have done this from a computer at the house without even doing anything to Gail, that this is what they chose to do. The only thing that she did deny was that she had Michael Brett Kelly kill Gail. She, like Michael, had broke down and started crying. There again, I didn't believe one of her tears was for Gail. The only reason that she was upset and was crying was because she had been caught. We've got Michael, we've got Tracy. Now we know about this other individual involved, Courtney Kelly. So now we've got to track her down.
We were actually live looking at the bank accounts that she had that were opened up, and we were able to locate Courtney in a hotel down in Warner Robins. Courtney Kelly was the half-sister of Michael Brett Kelly. And Courtney Kelly, I remember when she walked in, her attitude was she brought her purse and it had makeup that she had, of course, bought with stolen money. And her first attitude was, make sure nobody touches my makeup, it's expensive. Not caring that somebody had lost their life, that a family had been destroyed, that a business was in shambles for her actions. It was caring about materialistic, my makeup.
Well, whose money do you think you're spending?
I don't know.
But you sure are not spending it. She went around to different banks and opened up accounts, and she was just completely no remorse for it, just completely very lackadaisical about the whole situation.
So you went to Bank of America and you opened a checking account.
Yes.
Did you have to make any kind of deposit into that account? Expense free, and it's not quite all adding up. Because I mean, we know that there's a lot of money spent.
How much dope did you buy? I mean, I know you do. I know you do drugs.
But
Okay?
I didn't buy any.
I mean, I don't care. We're not arresting you for
I
drugs.
know, I understand that, but I did not.
I'll tell you what, I'm gonna take a break, and I'm gonna let you think about some of the other expensive items that you bought, okay? And I'll be back, all right?
During the interview with Michael Brett Kelly, he stated that he had recruited Anthony for this, and that Anthony had worked with him at a dealership in Warner Robins.
I don't know his last name. All I know is his name's Anthony. I don't know anything about him, honest to God, I don't. He was a co-worker from my work. He don't work there no more, he used to.
And we were able to identify Anthony as actually Keith Anthony Dozier.
Do you know where Brett's at and the other two girls?
Well, the two girls.
Yeah. Do you know where Brett's at? How about that?
No.
Brett's in jail. Brett's in jail for murder.
He asked me to meet him. He said that, he said he was going to give me like $5,000. He told me that there was some lady, pretty much he just told me that we was just going to be babysitting all day. And I was like, that don't, it sounds easy, but nothing's ever easy.
Agree with you on that. Out of the foursome involved in this, Mr. Dozier was the only one out of the group that did not have a passport.
Did you get a passport? Did you get a passport? No. Oh. Who the was supposed to take the fall for this?
I told Keith, I said, so you're the only one out of this group that doesn't have a passport. You're the fall guy. They set you up, Keith, to take the fall for this case. That you're gonna take the rap for Gail's murder.
He asked to call his wife. He wanted to talk to his wife, and his wife would alibi him. So the detectives called his wife and said, your husband is down here. He says that you can alibi him, that he was with you. And she said, yes, he was. And then they turned to Keith and said, all right, when she comes down here, and I know she's lying, you know she's lying, she's gonna be arrested too for your actions. And he said, give me 10 minutes and a cigarette.
Okay, all I'm telling you is this. Look at me, man. I know this is tough. I don't believe you,
Okay,
man.
give me 10 minutes, all right? That's all I'm asking for is 10 minutes and another cigarette.
I love my wife more than anything. More than myself. But I'm not gonna my wife's life. Just give me 10 minutes.
To walk down the hall and be a lookout while he killed her.
After it's all is Michael Brett Kelly. Tracy, Michael, and Courtney all pled, and they pled to every count that they were charged with. We proceeded through the trial. We put up the witnesses. Actually, Tracy Jones, we brought her back. She testified against him.
Asked everybody to use the restroom and not needing something to drink.
So your role was to keep the door open?
Yes. And they walked in the hall. When they walked in the hall to go into the bedroom, they shut the door.
Who came in first?
Dozer did.
The jury deliberated for about 3.5 hours and came back and convicted him of all charges. And we asked for and received the maximum sentence life without the possibility of parole. So Keith Dozier is right where he needs to be as well.
I did attend Gail's funeral, and I remember her co-workers being there. Some who worked there when she was there and some who had moved on to other law firms. I remember they were there as well, and they were all teary-eyed and upset. And it was such a needless thing to do, to kill someone. They could have stolen the money and spared her life.
The murder of Gail Spencer is probably one of the most heinous crimes that I myself have worked in my 18 years.
We never lost track of Gail the person. We never lost track of why we were seeking to prosecute these people, because of the loss of Gail. We were in constant contact with her family, and we focused on the fact that Gail was just a great person. She would, like I said, she was a mother. She was a grandmother. She loved being around her grandchildren. She was a great sister. She was a great coworker. So we never lost sight of who the real victim in this case was and why we were doing this. I will never forget this case. Just the intricate planning, the callousness of these people, and the absurdity of their plan, thinking they could get away with it, is a case I'll always remember.